our Pan-African Friday today, where we are. Now, we just want to remind you that there is a new variant of coronavirus that we have no knowledge about. Yesterday, the Minister of Health, Dr. General Thachengo Chero, while in Parliament, told the House that nothing much. We do not have a lot of information about what is happening. But nonetheless, let's continue keeping the fort by observing the available SOPs, those that we are used to. Let's mask up, let's sanitize, wash our hands, and of course, do all the other things that we can do, plus, of course, getting vaccinated, because we've also discovered and noticed that this is one of the ways that we're getting saved. According to the minister, it is said that of the many cases already seen in South Africa, it is believed and said that over 90 or even 80% of those all unvaccinated. So we're now trying to think that vaccination could be the way to go. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us. And of course, with me in studios today is my comrade, Cole Mandi Amazima. Karibu.
Asante sana.
Happy to have you again.
Likewise, happy to be with you on this show on a Friday.
Here is where we are.
Yes.
With the new variant, Omicron. Have you studied about it?
Yes, that's true.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Ndugu James Mututa is not with us today. He is not with us today, and he may not join us. Nonetheless, we're here. Now, joining us live in studios today is the ambassador, Tanzania's ambassador to Uganda, His Excellency Aziz Mlima. Karibu Balozi.
Nashukuru, asante sana, asante sana.
Thank you so much for having allowed to join us here today in our studios. Now, this conversation will also have other comrades or colleagues who are not with us, but they'll be joining us on Zoom. And just right there on Zoom today, we have Uganda's ambassador to Tanzania, the High Commissioner there, Ndugu, His Excellency Richard Kabonero. I just want to know whether he's with us online to also get to us. Ambassador Kabonero, if you are there, of course, we welcome you to the conversation. And of course, we also have Eric Hamisi, and he's the Director General for the Tanzanian Ports Authority, who is also just ready there with us. Now, we're going to discuss and talk about the role of Tanzania. Now, just remind you that this is one of those weeks that Tanzania celebrates as they also get to celebrating their independence celebrations. Independence in Tanzania will be on the 9th of December. And of course, on that particular day, Tanzania will be celebrating 60 years of their independence. Now, it is Tanzania at 60. And so we are part of the celebrations. We as Pan-Africans here at UBC TV, and of course with the panel here. Ndugu Akol, here is where we are. Just before we get into all the niceties about it, it is, I think they call it the Tanzanian celebrations or Independence Week. I just want to know and imagine what they are doing. Welcome.
You're welcome. Yeah, thank you very much, Ndugu Jage. And of course, this is a very historical day when it comes to East Africa, because in 1961, that is on 9th December, mainland Tanzania, then called Tanganyika, was the first East African country. Because when we talk about East Africa, originally we had the four countries. We had Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, and then Zanzibar. Yeah, those are the original, before of course we expanded the integration. So it became the very first country to attain her independence. But what comes out key is the willingness of Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere to stay, to delay the independence of Tanzania, so that they can wait for these other three East African countries, so that they could form the East African Federation. So it means that right from the onset, Tanzania was ready for a federation with the East African Federation, especially under their visionary leader, Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere. And indeed, you also see that Mwalimu did not stop there. He had a number of ventures, he had a number of initiatives put in place to show that he was in for an integration of the African people. He was in for total independence of the African people.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Ndugu Akol. Now, to just let the public know that we also have a comrade in Tanzania who will not be joining us on Zoom, but of course sharing with us what is happening there. He's my chapter president and group CEO of the Africa Mashariki Fest. It is a youth platform, of course, that has chapters across the region in Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Burundi. And of course, very soon we'll open one in South Sudan. Now, I am the Secretary General of the Africa Mashariki First Uganda chapter, and my colleague, Ronex Chisembo Tendo, is actually in Tanzania, and just sharing with us what is happening, because one of the activities that they're doing there are the bicycle races, and of course, we will also have the climbing of Mount Kilimanjaro, and these are some of the things that we will talk about. Lakini Balozi, welcome, and let's just get into the issues of our discussion today. Talk about Tanzania's role in the liberation of Africa. We very well know that Tanzania has been so critical, Tanzania has been so pivotal, Tanzania has been so crucial to the rest of Africa's liberation. Their role, how do you feel as a Tanzanian? And of course, when we talk about Tanzania at 60, your greatest contribution to the rest of Africa?
Thank you very much for giving me the chance to be here to the studio today and talk about the role of Tanzania on the liberation struggle of the African continent. Just before we got independence, if you remember, in February 1958, they had the leaders of the region were Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, Jomo Kenyatta at that time, and Obote from Uganda. They had a meeting in Mwanza. That meeting was under the organization called Pathmaker. Yes, and the idea of that meeting was to push for the independence of the countries in the region. At that time, if you remember, Tanganyika was still struggling to get its high independence, and Kenya was not independent, Uganda was not independent, but that group managed to invite other freedom-fighting political parties from different parts of Africa. And it was a movement which helped to set a stage for many countries in the region to fight for their independence. And if you remember, Tanganyika got its independence first, and after independence, Mwalimu didn't stop, because it was now the appropriate time also to facilitate other countries to fight for their independence. So Mwalimu invited a lot of political parties from the countries which were not independent to camp and establish their headquarters in Tanzania, in Tanganyika at that time, in order to fight for independence. And some of those political parties were from MPLA from Angola, Frelimo from Mozambique, SWAPO from Southwest Africa. There was UNIP from Zambia.
From Zambia.
Yes, and there was others like from Nyasaland. At that time, I don't remember the actual name of the party, but there were also a political party from Zambia at that time, which was there, and Mwalimu also managed to help. Some countries become independent much quicker. Zambia became independent immediately, and Nyasaland also. But then other countries took more time. But the Frelimo of Mozambique under Eduardo Mondrane, at that time, if you remember, Mondrane was working with the United Nations in New York. So Mwalimu went to New York during one of those visits, many of the visits which Mwalimu used to go to New York. He found him there, and he asked him, "What are you doing here, working for the UN? Why don't you come back and try to help your people?" So Mondrane came back, and then they established Frelimo, and they were based in Tanzania. So Mondrane, Samora Machel, and Marcelino dos Santos, and others were in Tanzania at that time, and I think they had a camp in Bagamoyo and other places. So they started fighting, and I think the General Chipande at that time was the first Mozambican to shoot the first bullet, which triggered the fight for freedom of Mozambique, the liberation struggle. And if you remember, during the time when President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni was a student at the University of Dar es Salaam, he used to go during the holidays to Mozambique at that time, to Nachingwea, and then cross border to part of Zambia, part of Mozambique, to see how these people were trying to liberate themselves. So this is the history of liberation for Mozambique. But there were other countries, South Africa, If you remember, the first visit of Nelson Mandela was in 1962. And he came to Tanganyika at that time through Mbeya, and he was received by the regional party chairman at that time, Mr. Mwakangale. And then he was facilitated to go to Dar es Salaam, and he met President Julius Kambarage Nyerere. So they had a meeting there, and then Mandela was facilitated. And he stayed with a certain Tanzanian family there for a few days, and then he was facilitated to go to Addis Ababa and then to Egypt, where he went some kind of military training before he returned back to South Africa, and he was arrested, I think, later in 1963, and then he was serving his sentence for almost 27 years. But when he came to Tanzania, Mwalimu used to have a network of friends, not only Africans, but also, you know, some people, Europeans who sympathized with the liberation struggle and, you know, the struggle of the southern part of Africa. So they managed to ship Nelson Mandela from Tanzania, then to Northern Rhodesia at that time, Zambia today, and then all the way up to South Africa. So after Mandela came out from prison after 27 years, his first trip abroad, he came to Tanzania just to see Mwalimu. At that time, Mwalimu was out of office. So this is, you could see the role Mwalimu played in the liberation struggle. Some of these political parties later moved, and they went to, you know, like we had the Zimbabweans, South Rhodesians were in Tanzania. I think ZANU, PF were mostly in Tanzania, and ZAPU and Joshua Nkomo mostly was in Zambia. And then the Oliver Tambo was in Zambia, but most of the time he was, Mwalimu sometimes we used to call him to come to Tanzania. So this is the kind of contribution which Mwalimu did.
Okay.
And as you know, the Liberation Committee was based and headquartered in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, under General Hashim Bita as the chief executive, as the executive director. And Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere is the chairman of the frontline states. And the frontline states at that time, which really together, after some of the countries became independence, it started initially, the Liberation Committee, there was Mulungushi Club.
The Mulungushi?
Yes, the Mulungushi Club. There was Julius Kambarage Nyerere, Dr. Milton Obote, and Kaunda, and Dr. Kaunda of Zambia, yes. So they started the Mulungushi Club, which later transformed itself to become the frontline states after Mozambique became independent and Angola. So you had Samora Machel after the death of Eduardo Mondlane in the late 60s. Late 60s. And then there was Samora Machel from Mozambique. There is Agostinho Neto from Angola, and Celeste Kama from Botswana, and Kaunda of Zambia, and Julius Kambarage Nyerere. But also we had some support from people of Arab Republic of Algeria, Nigeria, and all other African countries. Okay. We didn't work alone.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you feel today that we're celebrating 60 years of Tanzania's independence and, of course, Tanzania's contribution? I just want to imagine the feeling of what you see. And of course, when you look into the history, when you read history, you notice that Mzee Kambarage Nyerere and, of course, his team at that time had this vision of a united Africa, of a Pan-African continent, and quite a number of things. Do you think we are living the dreams of Mwalimu Nyerere and all the men who had all these very good dreams for our continent?
I think, yes, very much so. Today, I think if you look at the map of Africa and the regional economic operations we have, that was the dream of Mwalimu. Mwalimu, who differed with Kwame Nkrumah at that time. Kwame Nkrumah wanted to have a united Africa at once. And Mwalimu was of a different opinion and philosophy. That you cannot have the African unity at once while other countries are not free. We had quite a number of Southern Africa, a number of countries in southern part of Africa which were still under colonialism and apartheid. So Mwalimu philosophy was to get those countries free, to get them liberated first. And then we established regional economic cooperation like the East African Community, the first one. That's why, if you remember last week, we had a joint business forum in Dar es Salaam, which was graced by President General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni and President Samia Suluhu Hassan. And President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni distributed a newspaper there. Was it Kampala Argus or Uganda Argus, something like that?
Uganda Argus, yes.
Yeah, Uganda Argus, which was printed on the 6th of June 1963.
He reminds us normal on that. He keeps reminding us on that particular one.
Yeah, so that article in that newspaper was saying that federation now. And it was President Milton Obote of Uganda, President Kenyatta of Kenya, and Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere. And I think at that time it was only Uganda and Tanzania which were independent. Tanganyika. Kenya was still, I think, waiting for their independence in December, somewhere there. So the essence of the philosophy of Mwalimu at that time, you get the people to become independent first, and then you establish the federation or the union. And that's why he was ready to delay the independence of Tanganyika to make sure that Kenya, Uganda, and Zanzibar, all of them to become independent, then you form the federation at once. But you know, due to different factors and circumstances at that particular time, it was not possible. So what Mwalimu did was to make sure that immediately after Zanzibar became, after the revolution of Zanzibar, which took place on the 12th of January 1964.
In 1964?
Yes, 1964, yes. Few months later, Tanganyika and Zanzibar united to form the United Republic of Tanzania. So that was, and the union between Tanganyika and Zanzibar is still valid and still in existence until today, and that's why we have United Republic of Tanzania. And we had immediate after that the formation of East African Community in 1966, 67, somewhere. 67. And which lasted for about 10 years before it collapsed.
77.
So that was the philosophy of Mwalimu at that time, that have strong regional economic cooperation like the East African Community. Then you have the ECOWAS.
You have SADC.
You have SADC and all these other regional blocks, and then you can bring them together to form African unit.
United African.
Yes.
Okay. Which I think is also President Yoweri Museveni's philosophy, because I think he also disagreed with Gaddafi over the same. Gaddafi was also pushing for a united Africa together without strengthening the regional blocks. Akol, come to the conversation as we also find our other panelists who are on Zoom to talk about Tanzania. As we look at Tanzania today, many people may not recognize that Tanzania has actually been very key and pivotal in the liberation of Africa, not just neighbors here, Uganda, but of course African. When you talk about Mwalimu Kambarage Nyerere, who, like you said, was willing to delay Tanzania's independence to ensure that he wanted to have the entire Africa go together with him, the spirit of Pan-Africanism, and of course the Ujamaa spirit that we keep talking about, and the Ubuntu spirit of Africans to today. Do we have cause, the rest of us as Africans, to celebrate together with the people of Tanzania as they celebrate their 60th independence celebrations?
Well, I think we really have cause to celebrate with the rest of Tanzania as they mark 60 years, as they prepare to mark their 60 years of independence. Yeah, because Tanzania has not only played a key role in the development and growth of Africa, not only politically, but also socially. And socially, I'll begin on the language part of it. On 23rd of November this year in Paris at the UNESCO conference, Kiswahili was recognized as an international language, and therefore they said that every 7th of June has actually been earmarked as a World Swahili Day. So making Swahili as the only African language to ever get such a recognition, and now ranked as the 7th widely spoken language in the world as an international language. And there's no way we can really cherish this without looking at the efforts by Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, because in 1963, he really did declare Kiswahili as both an official and national language in Tanzania. So making Tanzania the very first country to adopt an African language as the official and also a national language. He actually did not stop at that. He even went ahead to translate books. He translated Shakespeare's books, he translated Julius Caesar into Julius Caesare, he translated Merchant of Venice into My Beparo Venice. So he's somebody really who did that, and also he came up with a number of books that he really did right. So on that part, he liberated the Africans socially, that look here, we can have a language we can call our own, a language we can develop, and we thank God that actually it has also been adopted. Now still, let's look at Swahili on the continent. In 2019, I was privileged to be part of that Dar es Salaam Declaration, where African Union Language Academy and the East African Swahili Commission came up together to see how best they push Swahili as the lingua franca of the African Union. And indeed, at the declaration, at the Dar es Salaam conference, we did come up with recommendations, and the very recommendations were adopted by the Summit of African Union, and making Swahili now a language of wider communication on the continent. But also it did not stop there. Still that very year in 2019, there was a SADC conference, SADC meeting in Dar es Salaam, where actually the late President John Magufuli was actually thereafter was elected as chairman of SADC. It was also adopted as one of the three working languages within the SADC region. So all these fruits stem back from the founding father of Tanzania, and the fact that also the Tanzanians were willing to toe his line, yes, to live his dream and make sure that the dream works.
Okay, well that's very important now, because I also want to talk about Kiswahili as Africa's lingua franca. Now, there has also been an argument over countries not developing in foreign languages. When you go to countries like China, when you go to countries like China, for example, where all of them speak Mandarin, you go to countries like South Korea, you go to countries like North Korea, you go to these European countries, you go to Germany, you go to all the other places where their development stems from their native languages. They've not borrowed a language in which to speak. Go to Ethiopia, for example, they have their own language and their own calendar, they have Amharic, and of course these are languages. Now, we talk about a lingua franca, but then again, you look at the continent as it is, the continent is also broken into regions, and we in East Africa take pride in speaking English. Even when Kiswahili is actually born right here next to us in Zanzibar, Tanzania, in a neighborhood. Then you go to other places where you find that the continent is actually covered with French. We go to our own meetings in Addis Ababa, and all our communications, all our publications at the African Union are translated in French, I think Portuguese, and English. What needs to be done to ensure that we push for a language that we can use as a development language, as a language that we can all get to. Here in Uganda, when you try to talk about Kiswahili or speak Kiswahili, then the idea, Kiswahili was demonized when it was coming into this language. It was a language of crooks, thieves, you know, if anybody wants to hurt you, fungua mlango, toa mkanda, toa viato, toa pesa, leta pesa, you know, it was a language that was used to terrorize people. And many people still live with that the trauma or the perception. What needs to be done to ensure that we shouldn't just talk about saying, yes, now this language was actually there, but how do we get the language to be our language as an African language, take pride, not in speaking good English or good French, but also speak good Kiswahili as our own African language?
Well, thank you, Jagenda. I think we must also thank the continent, and of course we should also thank our countries, that there are a number of efforts being done of ensuring that Kiswahili gets that acceptability on the continent. Because normally when you, an individual, a great person can come up with an idea, but that idea can only stand the test of time if there's an institution that is there to look after it. Now, let's look at the development of Kiswahili. That, of course, when Tanzania adopted Swahili, they came up with the National Kiswahili Council, Baraza la Kiswahili la Taifa, that was there to coordinate its growth. Now, when the East African community, after being revived, they said, look here, we must come up with an institution that is going to develop Kiswahili in East Africa and beyond. They came up with the East African Kiswahili Commission. Now, at African Union level, they said, look here, we must have an institution that is going to develop not only Kiswahili, but also even other African languages. Then they came up with the African Union Language Academy. So there are a number of institutions, and those institutions are looking at the growth of the language. They are looking at how do we harmonize the use of this language. Now, the University of Dar es Salaam has actually got an Institute of Swahili Studies, Tataki. And
preaching to the other converted.
Yes, not preaching.
They are preaching to the other converted.
Not preaching to the other converted, but professionalizing the language. That now people can study up to PhD levels. That books can be written not only for Tanzania but for the rest of the country of the world. And here in Uganda, there are a number of legislations to that effect. Our constitution, the 1995 constitution, says Kiswahili shall be the second official language.
It was written in our constitution 25 years later. Nothing has been operationalized. And I think that's Article 4 of our constitution.
Of our constitution.
Yes, it also says constitution shall be translated to all the other languages. Nothing has been done. So we can have these legislations.
And that's what I'm saying, because that is now the first step. Then just recently in 2019, you remember Mama Janet Museveni before Parliament defending the new curriculum where Kiswahili is now compulsory at lower secondary, senior 1 and senior 2. Perhaps the rollout was only affected by COVID because the next year we had lockdown.
But isn't that let also start a language in secondary school?
No, of course we have to start somewhere, because now when you look at people like Nyerere did not study Swahili, he studied English at Makerere. But he's one of the best Swahili scholars we've had. The likes of Shaban Robert did not study Swahili, they studied English, but they are the best. The likes of Said Ahmed Muhammad in Zanzibar did not study Swahili. We have Professor Austin Bukenya in Makerere. He's a very good Swahili writer. He didn't study Swahili, he studied literature and English. So we have to start from somewhere, that even students can begin Swahili from senior 1, and there will be the next crop of professors we shall have in the country.
What will that benefit us, apart from having the pride that we also have an African language, which is Kiswahili? What would that benefit to us? What would because I think that's also something that we need to get into. You see, it will get back at you to say, okay, what has English helped us? Because we were colonized by the British, we speak English, we start speaking English, as we start talking, the moment we start talking, then we start speaking English, and we grow into English-speaking people, and that's it. Why is development with speaking English? Where will development be when we decide to speak Kiswahili? That you can travel from here, you go to Nigeria, you go to Niger, to Cameroon, to Belkuta, you go to across the continent, and you are speaking Kiswahili. What would that benefit us? Maybe Ambassador, you come in here.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me take you back a little bit to a discussion which you mentioned, that the Swahili in the African Union, they are using just few languages. You mentioned French,
Portuguese, I think,
Portuguese, English. There is Arabic also. But I remember 2008, I happened to be an assistant to former President Benjamin William Mkapa, the late President Mkapa. During the time when we were doing the legal empowerment of the poor under the United Nations High Commission on Legal. The committee was known as High-Level Commission on Legal Empowerment of the Poor. And that proposal and the report of that legal empowerment of the poor, the report was supposed to be adopted by the African Union after the conclusion of its work under the UN. So when we brought it, we wanted to bring it to the summit of the AU to be adopted and given a resolution. We were asked to use the African language, the African Union languages. We were given the following languages: English, French, Spanish, Arabic, Portuguese, and Kiswahili. They said, if you want to bring anything to the African Union, these languages should be translated, all the documents should be translated into these languages. And Spanish is for the equatorial, I think it's Equatorial Guinea. It's the only country in Africa which use that language. So we had to translate those documents, those reports, and it was adopted in January, I think, 2008. So that is about Swahili. But you're right to say that Kiswahili is a lingua franca for many people in East African in the East African region. But if you go into the statistics and the number of countries of where you can find Swahili speakers in the continent, there are about 11 countries. You find Swahili speakers in Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, DRC. You find them, some in Malawi, some in Zambia, and you have in the fishing villages of Madagascar, you find people in Seychelles who speak some Swahili. But the Swahili differ. The one from DRC, for example, is a bit different from the one in Kenya and a bit different from the one in Uganda and Tanzania, etc. So what will Swahili help if we have that as a common language? I just happened to do my undergraduate studies abroad. So what I'm going to say, it may not be politically correct, but I think it will probably answer your question.
Okay.
During the time when I was a student, as an undergraduate student, we realized that most of our fellow students identified themselves based on their colonial masters, based on the languages people used to speak. So you find people, the Portuguese speakers hang around together. It doesn't matter which country, where you're from, Sao Tome and Principe, you're from Cape Verde, from Guinea-Bissau. As long as you speak Portuguese, you are in that group. And you share the same common mentality, and you have like a group interest. And if you are from the Francophone countries, you also identify yourself as a Francophone speaking nation or something like that. And if you're coming from English-speaking countries, then you find that you connect much easier with other fellow speakers from that group. Although in that country where I was a student, we have a common language which could actually unite all of us without our colonial background. But you could find people still go back to their silos of their languages. So I think if we have a common African language, like Kiswahili or whatever language, whatever other language which will be appointed, but for now we have Kiswahili.
And I think it should be Kiswahili. It should be Kiswahili. You can't start on a new one.
Yeah, I'm just trying to not to market it so much.
But it's okay to market it.
Yeah, but
it's okay, we market it.
But if you have Kiswahili as a common language, then the future generation will forget about all these colonial, you know, attachments of, oh, I'm coming from the Portuguese-speaking background or French-speaking background. And you could actually see, what I saw as a student, it's the same thing you could see when you go to Addis Ababa during the AU meetings. Some issues which are common to the African continent, you find that people look into that. Oh, how many Francophones have been appointed? How many Portuguese speaking have been appointed? How many positions for Anglophones? So this is not healthy for the community, for the African Union. I think we should be more Africans and be united with the language like Kiswahili than, you know, all this other, our past history.
Okay, we've labored to talk about integration, and I think that's the way to go. President Museveni is an anchorman when it comes to talk about integration for the East African region and of course for the continent as it is. And I think it was, I don't remember, maybe 2013 or so thereabout, when he was actually appointed to head and spearhead the integration bit of processes of this continent. He's talked about it. And when you hear or when you read anything about Africa's integration, yes, you really think and imagine we should be there by yesterday. What do you think is failing integration at all levels, even at just a small level, regional level, like here? You notice that as we talk about integration, then you find that one leader is so outspoken about integration, and maybe another leader is lukewarm about the integration. Then, of course, another leader will not be possibly concerned about these integrations. What needs to be done for us to synergize and get, I need to see the spirit of the Nyereres working in us today like it worked in them that time?
I think the philosophy of our forefathers were to integrate people based on the people-to-people or people-to-people diplomacy, or if you can put it in a diplomatic way. But if the communities of our societies are integrated, then you can have the entire continent integrated. But how do you integrate these communities? Through the economic means. You build roads, infrastructure, and things like that. And people can trade and move freely. And, you know, like the first East African community, we had a common market, we had the common customs, we had the common infrastructure of railway, buses, airlines, and the ports, and things like that. At that time, we were more integrated than we are in other parts of the Africa continent today, because you didn't need to have a passport to travel from Tanzania to come to Uganda, or to travel within the region. So that East African community of that time was more integrated than what we have today. So in order to integrate and to integrate the community, I think that's what we should be able to do. Today it may be very difficult to travel, say, from Kampala or from Dar es Salaam to a place like Equatorial Guinea, or to just across the border here, Congo, Brazzaville, because the infrastructure are difficult. I mean,
It's not favorable.
Yeah, they're not friendly. So if we really need to integrate our communities, we must have these mega projects of infrastructure, whereby it will be easier for somebody to travel from here to Kinshasa, from here to any point in Africa, without going through Europe. And I think by doing so, we'll be able to integrate our communities.
Okay.
So people-to-people integration is the key, and that the only thing which can stimulate that one to happen is the economic integration.
Okay, well, very important. Akol, just a few days ago, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni was in Tanzania, and of course, together with Mama Samia Suluhu, her son, in Tanzania. And the president was in Chato, the Geita, where he opened up a school, Museveni pre and primary school in Chato. The conversation, I want us to get the pictures of that school that the president was launching a few days ago. To so many people now, either those who know or do not know anything about it, now they keep questioning and asking these questions. Why would President Museveni of Uganda go and open up a school in Tanzania? And we're talking integration. People look at these countries as very distinct or very separate from one another. When you are in Uganda, you need to think Uganda, and once you cross and go out of Uganda, then everything about Uganda needs to stop there and possibly now start adopting and learning new things wherever you've gotten to. When we talk about integration, for example, and just the other day, President Museveni was opening up a school in Tanzania. He did this, I think, in 2015, when he also offered about 700 million shillings to build a school in Rwanda, and I think he did the same thing in 2017. Still in Rwanda, to build another school in Rwanda. And this now is causing people to say and talk and say, how would you even have a school in Tanzania called Museveni Primary School, in a way? Come to the conversation on that particular one. Does it speak to our integration? Does it speak to the brotherhood that we're trying to build? Or how do we let the people understand that this is not just about Uganda, but we talk about East Africa or even Africa as an integrated continent?
Well, thank you, Ndugu Jagenda, but I also think that the ambassador, Ndugu,
they will join us, they will come.
Kabonero, and yes, they will be joining us and of course helping us answer that as well. But my take on this is that in life we should learn to reciprocate the favors done to us. Yeah, because in 1970, in the 70s, when we were fighting against Idi Amin Dada, when the Ugandans were in the diaspora, of course being coordinated in Tanzania, were fighting against the Idi Amin Dada's dictatorship in Uganda. They were facilitated by Tanzania. They planned on the Tanzanian land. So it is also important for us to know that definitely in that process, some properties were destroyed. It is also important to note that lives were also lost on that side. And therefore, it is a gesture of goodwill. It's a gesture, it is a gesture of gratitude that you actually also appreciate the role they've really played. Still back to the 70s, we've seen people, the likes of Dr. Rakana Rugunda, who said they could not finish their studies at Makerere. They had to run to exile, and all students who ran from Makerere to Tanzania, Mwalimu Julius Kambarage and Dr. Kenneth Kaunda integrated them in the universities, University of Dar es Salaam and that of in Zambia. So that was also a gesture a gesture of love from Tanzania. Therefore, now that the country has stabilized, and it is very, very important that we should also remind people of that history. And the schools have not even been built far away. It's within Kagera region. A region that was on the receiving end when the conflict was on. Yes, the region that was on the receiving end when the conflict was on. So I think the people should not really politicize this. People should not really try to demonize what
somebody says, don't you have enough land?
Yes.
In Uganda?
Yes,
That's
I'm saying. Somebody should not demonize this, but they should also look. You know, Tom Mboya used to say that a country, a community without a history is
like a face without a nose.
Without a nose. So I would call upon all the activists, all the political commentators from all the political divides, that before you can say something, like the Chinese say, no research, no talk. You just look at your history. How did we get here as Uganda? Why is it that we are not putting up the same schools in Congo? Why are we not putting them in South Sudan or in Kenya? So let us interrogate our history so that it can really be able to help us understand why particular things are happening the way they are.
Okay, well, it's just a few minutes to 10 o'clock, and I'll just request that we go for a short break. And when we come back from the break, of course, we will also try to find Ambassador Richard Kabonero and Ndugu, the TPA Director General from Tanzania, who we now think are ready to join us on this conversation of Pan-African Friday. We'll take a break and return shortly.
It's the festive season and we love it. And that means it's time to celebrate with GoTV.
Come with me.
So get your GoCoder and GoTV value for 25,000 shillings to watch with the whole family. And if you're feeling extra festive, upgrade to our best package yet, GoTV Super.
Something to look forward to.
Download the My GoTV app for more information.
Super.
We all deserve a super festive season. And with GoTV, there's every reason to love it.
It's Freaky Friday from Airtel. Buy or gift. Buy or give.
Get freaky too! Dial *149*10# to load a Freaky Friday bundle for you to enjoy the best offers on voice and data.
To buy a bundle for friends and family, dial *149*10*5#. Freaky Friday with Airtel. Buy or gift a bundle today. Dial *149*10# to get started. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Introducing the all-new Roofing's TMX 500C rebars with cut and bend surfaces. Roofing's, strength of a nation.
Well, it's a very good morning. Welcome back from that short break. We continue the conversation on our Pan-African Friday today. My name is Jagenda Semakula Zikusoke. And of course, together with me in studios is Coleman Yamazima and Tanzania's ambassador to Uganda, His Excellency Aziz Mlima. He's with us in studios here. Of course, look and talk about Tanzania. Now, to just remind you that Tanzania will be celebrating 60 years on the 9th of this month, Tanzania at 60. And of course, there are a series of activities, of course, that the ambassador in studios here will let us understand the activities preceding that particular day. But to just let you know, in Tanzania, we have, of course, colleagues there. Africa Mashariki First and Group CEO Ronix Chisembo Tendo is actually in Tanzania, and one of the activities that they are rolling out is the bicycle race, racing for independence. And of course, as you can see, that is happening right now in Tanzania. They've just been flagged off to ride for so many other kilometers as part of the activities. Now, remember that is in partnership still with Uganda and of course Tanzania. Now, the Africa Mashariki Fest is it's a youth organization born in Uganda, but of course working together with all the other East African countries, and that's why we as Africa Mashariki Fest are actually in Tanzania to be part of this, and of course also be part of climbing Kilimanjaro, another event that will be happening. I'm missing the climbing of Kilimanjaro myself. I don't know whether Balozi, you'll climb Kilimanjaro.
Yes, from here straight I'll go to the airport, and then tomorrow I'll be, tonight I'll be in Moshi. Okay. Tomorrow I'll try to acclimatize, and on the 5th I'll start scaling Mount Kilimanjaro. Okay. Yeah. I call you missed the bicycle race.
Well, I missed this particular one. Maybe next time I'll be ready for the race.
Does the ambassador have some strength to climb Kilimanjaro?
Yes, I did it twice. The first time I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro was December 2014.
You were much younger. We talked about 7 years ago.
Yeah, and then the second time I did, and the second time could have been a difficult one, but I managed. That was 2017 December or so. Last year I was supposed to take a group of ambassadors to go and climb Mount Kilimanjaro, but due to COVID, we couldn't. But I decided this year, because it has been organized by the Ministry of Tourism and Natural Resources and the TANAPA, Tanzania National Parks, to say, as part of the celebration of the 60 years anniversary of independence of Tanzania mainland. So I've been invited, so I'm going also to take part in that.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Very important. Talking about the age, last time when we climbed 2017, we have a former ambassador who was 70 years old.
70 years.
Yes, and he went up all the way to Uhuru Peak.
How long does it take?
5 days.
5 days.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, very important. Now, that's one of the activities, of course, happening to mark Tanzania's independence celebrations, and that is a part of it, riding bicycles, as you can see. And of course, I'm just proud about that because it's Africa Mashariki Fest, of course, together with Tanzania and the other players in Tanzania to celebrate and to be part. This is locally saying we are part of Tanzania. So as Tanzania celebrates their 60 years, we are part of them, and of course, we are together with them. Now, let's join together here. Let's have Eric Hamisi, the Director General of Tanzania's Ports Authority, joining us online now from Tanzania. We just hope you can now hear us and see us.
Good morning, all of you.
Well, a very good morning, Ndugu Eric Hamisi.
Yes.
Can you just work on your video and we'll be able to see you? Can you see us where you are?
Yeah, I can clearly see you.
Oh, well.
I can see you. Yes.
Well,
Can you see me?
yes, very good. You're trying to adjust yourself. You know, you're doing everything for
Yes.
yourself. You're the camera person. You you everything. Thank you. And now, yes, we can see you. We thank you so much. First, come to the conversation. Tell us how it looks like in Tanzania, where you are, before we get into all the other niceties. How is Tanzania this morning?
Hello?
How is Tanzania? How is Tanzania this morning?
Well, it's in Dar es Salaam particularly a bit cold. It's raining, and everything is okay.
Okay,
We are set to go and celebrate our 60th anniversary, independence anniversary.
Yes, I know. You're busy and you couldn't go for the bicycle race. That's why. I know you're busy and you couldn't go for the bicycle race. Do you have a representative there?
Hello?
Okay. Let's talk about the role of TPA in the growth of trade in the region, East and Central Africa. The role of TPA specifically, the role, the organization or the authority that you're personally heading as Director General there. Let's talk about its role as we also celebrate 60 years of independence together with our brothers and sisters in Tanzania.
Thank you very much. Yes, we are part of the celebrations, and to put it clear, we are not only celebrating for the contribution that we have for the economic development of this country, but specifically for the region in large. We have we are operating seaports and lake ports in Tanzania, and the TPA is mandated to develop and operate these ports. We have a number of ports. Most of the people, unfortunately, are only aware that we have Port of Dar es Salaam. But Tanzania Ports Authority operates and runs 78 ports across the country. We have major ports in the Indian Ocean, at least 3 that are known. Port of Mwanza, Port of Dar es Salaam, Port of Mtwara, and Port of Tanga. These are popularly known, especially for Uganda market. Tanga Port is very much known, and that port is also very much known. But we have Mtwara Port along Indian Ocean, but we have a number of ports in the lakes. In Kigoma, we have several, but the big ones are Kigoma Port, and in Lake Tanganyika, Kigoma Port, and we are now developing a big port at Karema Port, which will have a container terminal as well. In Lake Victoria, where we border Uganda, we have Mwanza Port, and at Mwanza we have 2 terminals: the southern port and the northern port in Mwanza. And we have several in Musoma and Kemondo Bay, which is also very much known for Ugandan market. So all these ports together have contributed quite a substantial percentage in development of the region. And we all appreciate the fact that the maritime is the most affordable mode of transport across the world. And we all know 90% of the cargo is actually being transported using the water mode. So we are in the industry which can facilitate and catalyze economic growth quite substantially and faster at very affordable rates. So for us, we can write home. We can write home that we have substantially done a big development. As I said, not only in Tanzania but in the region. We are bordering directly 6 countries. You know, we are bordering Malawi through the Lake Nyasa, and we are bordering Zambia through Lake Tanganyika. We are also bordering DR Congo through Lake Tanganyika as well, Burundi, Rwanda, and Uganda through Lake Victoria. So our operations have actually contributed significantly to economic development of Tanzania and the region.
Okay, well, thank you. Now, just carrying on, you talked about all your neighbors. I will talk about Uganda, the land where I live and where I am now. Uganda is a landlocked country, but also land-linked in a way. And we just told that TP has plans of opening up an office here in Kampala. And where Uganda, of course, has no port, we're just trying to think and imagine. When you open up a port, or an office rather, when you open up an office in Kampala, what is this intended to achieve? And of course, how do you think this will enhance business between the two partner states of Uganda and Tanzania?
Yeah, we have a very cordial relationship with the business community in Uganda. And I believe we can do much more, because as we stand right now, we are not having a very significant amount of volumes that are passing via Port of Dar es Salaam through Port of Dar es Salaam to Uganda. So we believe if we are close to our customers in Uganda, we can do a lot. We have testimony from some of our customers in Uganda who have enjoyed our services from Port of Dar es Salaam to Port Bell and Uganda and Kampala. We have intermodal, multimodal sort of transport that link Dar es Salaam Port and Kampala. We have railway lines, the Central Line, which is in Uganda commonly known as Southern Corridor, sorry. And we can link Dar and Kampala through railway, water through Lake Victoria, and then get to railway lines operated by URC to Kampala. And the testimony that we have as clearly demonstrated that we have cut down cost by 40%, freight cost by 40%, as opposed to go via Mtukula through the roads. So we have a lot that we can do for our business community and importers and transporters and exporters from Uganda to Tanzania via our ports, but both Port of Dar es Salaam and Port of Tanga. So by opening this office, we'll have a meeting point, rather, where you can get all the necessary information about our port and where we can be able to facilitate our customers easily. So it's important that we get close to Uganda market by having a dedicated office in Uganda. And I should take this opportunity to really thank Honorable His Excellency President Yoweri Museveni for allowing us to have this setup in Kampala.
Well, thank you very much. Ndugu Hamisi, perhaps one thing I also wanted you to maybe clarify on this is how Eastern Congo, especially areas like Butembo, Beni, and then Southern Sudan, stand to benefit from the office you've actually you've opened or you intend to open in Kampala.
Yes, as we all know, the proximity of the regions that we have spoken about, that we have mentioned, they are easily accessible through Uganda. And once you have a presence in Uganda, it will be very easy to have to serve better these markets that we are talking about. Southern Sudan, part of eastern Congo, and Uganda itself can easily be served through this office, and that will make our business interface with our customers easier.
Asking.
Well, the other thing that perhaps we also need to know is let's look at in terms of costs, because the other time President Yoweri Museveni and Mama Suluhu Hassan were actually talking about removing the non-tariff barriers. So you as TPA, what strategies are you putting in place so that perhaps using the Dar es Salaam and Tanga ports can be cheaper for the business community? Because it is actually being said that why perhaps some businessmen prefer Mombasa is because of the infrastructure, but also some other incentives that are also given to the trade. So what are the incentives so that you can you are putting in place to attract more and more exporters and importers to use the ports in Tanzania?
Yeah, we all know that the traders, the importers, exporters, major variables that they will definitely consider before they make a decision is cost and time. And we have done a number of improvements, especially in our Dar port, that will cut down a lot of time, waiting time. We used to have a lot of waiting time. The turnaround time in Dar port used to be unattractive to many traders, many importers and exporters from Uganda, not only from Uganda, but from the other regions. So we have done a number of improvements at that port right now. As you are aware, we have a massive project, Dar es Salaam Maritime Gateway project, which is ongoing, which is almost getting to an end, which entails expansion and deepening of the draft to accommodate bigger ships. We are now able to accommodate even post-Panamax size ship, and we have deepened our quay side to at least 14.5 meter right now. It used to be an average of 8 before, and which is it used to be a big constraint because bigger ship could not berth. But we have done a big investment in equipment. As phase one, we have invested almost $100 million to acquire equipment to modernize our loading and offloading activities. All this in the spirit of saving time. But we have coordinated other parties. You know, when we talk of borders, we talk of a number of stakeholders from the port to the border. So we have streamlined all of them. As you can see, the roads infrastructure have been worked upon. At Lerwe, we have done a number of investment in Lerwe line. As you can tell now, even before the standard gauge, the meter gauge has now improved. We used to have a speed of 35 kilometers per hour before, but after the investment that has been done, we have now attained 72 kilometers per hour, which is almost more than double of the speed. And it's now easier to use this intermodal sort of transport from Dar es Salaam to Kampala and get your goods delivered within 4 days, which never used to be the case before, because before it used to take even 7 days to get to Kampala. But now we are only using 4 days from there to Kampala, which is a big improvement, even before the standard gauge. Once we get the standard gauge up and running, we will definitely do it within maybe 36 hours only. The government has also done a lot into making a substantial investment in lake transport. Envio Moja is being rehabilitated, you know, that wagon ferry. And once complete, it will be almost brand new, and it will take about 6 months to have it back to operations. And we are also building another new ferry, a new wagon ferry in Lake Victoria, which will also serve the 2 points, the Port Bell and Mwanza ports. All this is in the big good spirit of cutting down time and reduce costs to the importers and exporters, to make the airport attractive and most preferred port for the Uganda-bound cargo.
Okay, Ndugu Hamisi, very important, and we thank you so much for your submission just right there. One minute before you turn back to studios, you notice that when we talk about the East African community, of course, there are these pillars that establish our community. And when we launched the Customs Union, of course, we've seen it work to us, where we've had the one border stop point that have been opened up to facilitate business and customs around our borders. But there is also one very key thing in the Customs Union, and this is a single customs territory. I just want to know how much we have maybe TPA and of course the rest of the partners has done to ensure that the single customs territory is also facilitated to ease and to make trade and business together as partners also feasible and easy. How much has been done with that?
A lot has been done. We take the visit of His Excellency President Museveni, which has done 2-3 days ago, as he posed a lot of challenges that we need to wake up on to improve a lot of things, and one of them is working upon the issues to do with customs and everything. So, as stakeholders in the transport and logistics in Tanzania, we are set to have our forums to deliberate on various issues that will facilitate all the logistical issues that is needed to be attended after the visit of His Excellency President Yoweri Museveni. So I think a lot will be seen, and as directed, we are set to change a lot of things. And the fact that a lot of cargo is not of Uganda bound is not passing through the restaurant. That indicates that there's a number of things to be done to improve. All the stakeholders need to sit together and deliberate and see what extent we're going to improve. So I think for now it should be enough to say that as we are setting to go further on addressing a lot of issues, we should stay tuned and see what kind of improvement will come thereafter, considering the fact that the two heads of states have agreed on a number of things, and we as executors, we should ensure that these things are happening in the nearest future.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Let's come back to studios here with the ambassador, Ambassador Mlima. We know that this is, of course, the week that precedes your independence celebrations, and we just want to know what do you have as build-ups to that particular day? Of course, independence will come, and we'll do the independence celebrations in Dar es Salaam. I am very sure about that. But just the other things. What are the build-ups? For example, Tanzanians in Uganda, Ugandans here in Uganda want to be and celebrate independence with you out there. What are the activities that are preceding the celebrations on the 9th of this month?
Thank you very much. At the moment, we are it started yesterday. Okay. We have exhibition at the mission here in Kampala. At the ground of the Tanzania mission, we have exhibition, and some people have come from Dar es Salaam. Part of them is the Tanzania Port Authority and business people from Tanzania.
Tanzania Port Authority, that
Tanzania Port Authority, which Ndugu Hamisi just spoke. His team is here, and some of them we have here in studio now. And the exhibition is taking place right as we speak. It runs from 9 in the morning to around 3. And started yesterday, which was graced by His Honorable Minister Henry Okero Oriem, yes, and other diplomats and people coming to see the exhibition in the pavilions which we have set up at the mission there. But we'll finish tomorrow. And as I said, I will go to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. This is part of the activities which is taking place in Tanzania. But the summit of the celebration will be on the 9th of December, whereby we commemorate 60 years anniversary. And it is going to take place in Dar es Salaam, the place where we were. The Union Jack went down on that particular day, and the flag of Tanganyika went up. So this is the what is happening at the moment. And in most of our diplomatic missions abroad, and the Tanzanian diaspora in those places, and the citizens of the respective countries are celebrating and organizing what we call the Week of Ijue Tanzania. A week which is like a week to get to know Tanzania a bit better. So we showcase different products manufactured in Tanzania, some of the arts from Tanzania, cultural, and so many others. So we encourage you to come and visit our mission, just to see for yourself.
What's very unique with Tanzania that? How should I even call it? What's so unique with Tanzania that you just talked about Ijue Tanzania? Come and know about Tanzania also. When we're coming into studio, somebody said, "Oh, you're dressed like a Nigerian." You know, they just looked at the other and said, "These guys are dressed like Nigerians." Now, when you come in like this, they'll think you're a Nigerian. You can't come in and somebody looks at you and says, "Oh, but he's putting on like an Ethiopian." There are these things. What is very distinct about Tanzania that somebody will come there to say, "I'm picking this for myself from Tanzania"?
Well, Tanzania, it's a multicultural society.
Sure.
We have all sorts of people, but if you go into the tribes, we have more than 120 different tribes in Tanzania. So it's not very easy to have a common dress code for which is unique to Tanzania, because every single tribe, they have their own.
Just like I don't think it's common, it's easy to have one in Uganda.
Yeah, so the Indian community in Tanzania, they have their way of dressing, and even the Indians are different. There are, you know, some which are Ismailis, some are, you know. So the Indians are, they have their different dress code. The Sikh, the Hindus, but the Arabs also in Tanzania, they have their own dress code. The people in the coast have their different dress code. If you go to the interland, there you find people dressing a bit common, but you know, nowadays people modernize based on you buy clothes which are ready-made. So that unify people in terms of where you buy your stuff. But if we have traditional dances, or traditional weddings, or traditional celebration, that's where you can see the way people dress.
Okay.
But basically for ladies, they dress in kitenge or kanga or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ndugu Hamisi, the director TPA, let me come back to you there and just talk about trade relations between the two countries, Uganda and Tanzania. How are our trade relations to start with, and what are these things that you take pride in and say, we have a good partner that we are working with, and this partner is called Uganda?
Most of the issues are still on the pipeline, but I'm seeing a lot coming up. Right now, we are enjoying a lot of importation, especially in petroleum products passing by the port of Dar es Salaam. And we have seen a lot coming from Uganda, especially for the Mwanza market. We have seen big transactions being in our books, being done by some of the companies, especially in iron sheets and construction materials. But a few motor vehicles are being imported from abroad to Uganda via Port of Dar es Salaam and our ports. But I'm seeing a great future. I'm banking on the statistics that we have right now, because the statistics might discourage us, which we have a number of challenges that we need to work upon to improve these statistics. But I'm seeing a lot. I was in Uganda, in Kampala 3 weeks ago, and I had the opportunity to visit a number of customers that we deal with. So these are the ones that will increase the volumes of trade. And I believe based on their issues, the issue that they raised, and once we wake up on them, a number of improvements will happen. And to cement, even the visit of the president will definitely change things. You know, there have been outstanding challenges that were not addressed timely. So my team and the ports in general will endeavor to make sure that we sort out this issue. We know the seaports integrate and link trade. So we have a big role to play as partners in trade. If TPA improves, we will change the volume of trade, because the trade starts with the importation and then the number of volume that will be pushed to the Ugandan market, and from Uganda to Tanzania via our ports for exports.
Okay, for all the time that you've been here, I do not know how many years that TP has actually been here, but what are these very pertinent achievements that you would take pride in as a TPA to the development of Tanzania to start with? Because 6 years later, the people in Tanzania need, of course, to say, here is where we are, and of course we are happy that it's our 60th independence because of these particular achievements. What could you, or what can you as a TPA take pride in the achievements of your achievements to the development of Tanzania?
We have facilitated exports of all the agricultural products that are grown in Tanzania. We have facilitated importation of all the building materials, all the bridges you see, all the factories you see. The materials have been imported. So they all came via ocean, via the sea. And we, being a sea operator, being port operators, we have facilitated clearance of all these. We received all the vessels that were calling Dar es Salaam for importation. And we have facilitated all the ships that were calling in Dar es Salaam Porto, Dar Porto, Tanga Porto, Mtwara Port for exports. So we have also contributed quite substantially into the growth of the national economy and the national income through customs.
Okay, you have staff from TPA who are in Kampala here, who have come to be part of the celebrations that of course started yesterday in Kampala. We don't know whether they've come to benchmark or to whatever they've come to do, but what are your expectations of your people who have come to visit and to be part of the exhibition of Ijue, Tanzania, here in Kampala?
I expect them to tell people who will come there the good news about our ports in Tanzania and how affordable we are. Maybe if there is a perception that we're expensive, that should go, because maybe we have not done a lot to tell the public. But also I'm using this media to at least tell the traders, the importers and exporters of Uganda that despite the fact that we have an alternative route, we can access Dar es Salaam and Kampala or Jinja through the road or through the lake. So all these put together, they are not as expensive as they are perceived to be. We want to also maybe tell people the few testimonies that we have with few customers that have tried us lately, and they will tell you that they have reduced their cost by almost 40%. almost 40% in using the lake. We are also going to tell people the good relationship that we have with Uganda Railway. Now we have an alliance with Uganda Railway, TPA, Tanzania Railway Corporation, in making sure that all the cargo that goes to Uganda or comes from Uganda to Dar es Salaam port or Tanga port is handled seamlessly and at affordable rate. So all these are the efforts we put in place to ensure that we give confidence to the Uganda business community that we are really serious and mean business. So I'm expecting end of the exhibitions, a number of people get to understand TPA and try to enjoy our services.
Okay, well that's very important. Akol, getting back to Tanzania, of course, I'm speaking to Hamisi here in Tanzania of the Ports Authority, and of course talking to us about that. Quite a number of things, but when we talk about trade, for example, not so many people will actually even think or imagine that there is business that these two countries are actually doing. When you talk about Uganda-Tanzania relationships or relations, is that it's more of political. It's more of political and not necessarily a business. Somebody may be thinking now, can they trade with Tanzania, and what's actually there to take to Tanzania or to come from Tanzania to Uganda?
Well, I think why, of course, we've had a relationship with our sister countries in the original East African countries. That our relation with right from independence, our relation with Tanzania was more political. And our relationship with Kenya was more economical because most of the goods used to come from Kenya. Remember the days of Idi Amin and Obote II, when there was a shortage of most of the products.
Essentials.
Yes, most of the essentials used to come from Kenya. And besides, even the port that was being used was the Mombasa port for imports and exports. So our relationship with Kenya has been more of a business and economical. But our relationship with Tanzania has been more of political because ideally most of the struggles we had here, we have always worked closely with Tanzania. But that also aside, we also need to look at, of course, the role of Tanzania also in boosting business, especially the TPA, Tanzania Ports Authority, because when you go to Dar es Salaam, they had the Tazara Railway. That was the Tazara, that is the Tanzania Zambia Railway. And ideally that was supposed to boost trade because Zambia was using that railway to export their copper. So you can see, and it was built by the two countries, Tanzania and Zambia, without the help of the colonialists. So the port has actually been serving some part of Southern Africa that is landlocked, and even places like Eastern Congo, especially on the southeastern Congo. So it has actually also been helping them. So the biggest undoing, I think, was infrastructure, because there was a time in Tanzania that somebody from Bukoba traveling from Dar es Salaam would find it easier moving through Nairobi, Kampala, and then Bukoba because of the road network then. But in the last 10 years, especially under Kikwete and Magufuli, there's been a tremendous road construction that now there's no need why somebody from Kagera again has to pass through Kampala and then connect Nairobi and then Dar es Salaam. So now with that infrastructure, I think TPA has a bigger role to play. That other than handling imports and exports at the port, they should actually also push for infrastructure development. Because now, if we have, like he's saying, they are working with URA, if we can have a robust railway system, we can have a very good road system, actually that is going to make their work easier. That now that they have an office in Kampala, it means therefore that even somebody could actually finish business in Kampala, and things are put on the railway to Mwanza ship, and then so I think that technology really has to come in, and they need to work with the relevant organizations. And I'm also very happy that in most countries you always find that the Ministry of Transport is married with that of works, because they work hand in hand. The infrastructure development, they work hand in hand. So I think the ministry is in charge of transport, the ministry is in charge of works and infrastructure. They need to do a lot. because this takes us to the conversation when President Museveni thought of building a road network in Congo, and people are making noise. No, because there's no way you're going to sell your products to Congo when there's no infrastructure. So I'm also happy that as they are talking of building a standard gauge railway in Tanzania, they are also sweet talking us here also to develop one, because there's no way you are going to have a good standard railway in one country
and you don't
have it in the other, because that means now when goods reach Port Bell, what next? So they should be able from Port Bell to Nimule and then to Southern Sudan, or to Mirama, or to Kasese and to Congo. So I think there must be that coordinated infrastructure development within East and Central Africa for purposes of boosting trade.
How should Ugandans take advantage? Should Ugandans and Tanzanians take advantage of what we're now seeing? For example, when we launched the EACOP and now the pipeline project, it's one of the things that has vehemently now and publicly, clearly, glaringly brought on the relations of Uganda and Tanzania in as far as trade is concerned. Now everybody is looking to this pipeline. We talk about the pipeline, of course, which starts in Kabale, goes through what's the border called in Mutukula, then of course it crosses to the port in Tanga. How should Ugandans and Tanzanians leverage on this? Like I asked him, we have known our relations to be more of political relations as opposed to economic in this way. So how should we take advantage of what we're now seeing? Because we're now talking economics, we're talking business, we're now talking about economic empowerment for both citizens of these countries.
Yes. Last week we had what we call Joint Business Forum in Dar es Salaam, which President Museveni and Her Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan were there as the guest of honor. The idea of this Joint Business Forum is to bring together the two business communities of Uganda and Tanzania to be able to prepare themselves in the implementation of the project. You know, the EACOP project, the East African Crude Oil Pipeline, it's what we call in diplomacy that it's a pipeline diplomacy. And pipeline construction itself doesn't really have much, but there is cross-cutting issues in the construction of it. So there will be a lot of jobs creation in all sectors of the economy, because people need to eat, so we need food. People need to sleep, we need hotels. People need to use medical facilities and so many others. So this idea of the two business community of Tanzania and Uganda to meet together is a way to prepare them to be able to tap into the opportunities which are opening during the time when the construction of the pipeline from Hoima to Tanga is going to take place. We need to prepare ourselves in terms of skills, in terms of service delivery, in terms of vendoring, supply of goods and services which are required by the pipeline project. So this, I think, people need to tap into that economic opportunity and the commercial opportunities which will unfold during the construction.
Are Tanzanians ready to tap from those?
Come again?
Are Tanzanians ready to tap these opportunities, tap from these opportunities?
Yes, there is some kind of local education to give to people so that they prepare.
Awareness.
Yes, that's the right word. Awareness of the project and what is coming and what to expect, and so there is this kind of activities which are taking place in Tanzania to prepare the mindset of the people. And I think in Uganda here it's the same. People have been very active to encourage people to register in the database where the implementation of the project will take place, so that they can be able to tender when these opportunities open.
Okay, yeah. Very important. Ndugu Akol, we're trying to find Ambassador Kawoniro, who I think has actually failed to connect or get through. The people they have tried to see that they get to him, but I think He's not been able to join us. They're still trying to reach him, but I think he may not be able to join us because our time is indeed really running out today for this conversation. But yet again, we still emphasizing on relationships. Let's talk about the integration itself. That when we talk about integration, for example, you hear so much happening about integration. Then as you're trying to see how this integration comes, we've only managed to integrate, especially when it comes to simpler issues. Having legislators at the regional parliament in Arusha, maybe having a united ESCJ, the court for us, the first and second instance courts. Just a few of these, and of course now at the helm where you have the summit where these leaders come and sit together. But the people seem to be far away, detached from integration itself. What needs to be done for people to actually appreciate that having a united Tanzania together with Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan would be the best thing for us to do, would be a good thing for us to do. What needs to be done to ensure that we get to the people, to talk to them about integration, to appreciate and know that we really need to have a united East Africa?
Well, I think you see, leadership plays a very, very key role in whatever setting. Yeah, because I was happy that the other time President Mama Suluhu Hassan was talking of removing the non-tariff barriers. Because ideally, people, the common wananchi, will always integrate social and economically. Because when it comes to politically, those are the leaders. But economically and socially, the common wananchi, because now, when you remove the non-tariff barriers, it means people around Mutukula, yes, people in Kagera sub-region and people around Rakai, this other side, will easily trade without actually any. So then the other issue is, of course, implementing the pillars. You know, our reintegration was based on 4 pillars. That is the customs union, then we have the common market, and then the monetary union and the federation. So the monetary union and the federation perhaps can take longer, but let the 2 pillars, the customs unions and the common market, let people really be able to get opportunities on either side. That you can get opportunities on the other side, you can also be able to trade. I think those are some of the issues that can make the community real work for the people. Then I think also the method of election of Yala members of parliament, I think should also be revised, because it's only parliaments that elect. I think they should also take it lower, that even district councils.
Oh, okay.
At least adult suffrage. No, not adult suffrage. But also let us see district councils. Yes, because at least that's now you're taking it. Because now ideally, if you went to my village, perhaps in Kumi or in Kasese, and ask about a Yala member of parliament, they have no idea. All the MPs they know are these ones and the councillors. So let us have the district councils, the councillors also participate in the election of Yala members of parliament. So that at least now, yes, the districts can also be part, because ideally when you have a councillor, you have somebody who's closer to the people than a member of parliament. So I think that also will bring again the integration. Then lastly, you know, Uganda, yes, we are always into integration, but also there is the issue of leaders removing the phobia, sensitizing the people against fear, because now we've reached a time when we are integrating. We reintegrated at a time when there was a lot of mistrust between the 3 countries. That even when we bring on other countries, that mistrust is still at large. So it's very, very important that the mistrust, the leaders work upon that, and once it is done away with, I'm very sure that it will be easier for the rest of the people to integrate and to appreciate the integration.
Very important. Ambassador Mulima, when you're speaking, you sound like you're a very good student of Mwalimu Kambarage Nyerere. You speak his heart, you speak his mind, you speak his philosophy. How many Tanzanians do speak like you speak when they talk about issues of Tanzania and the region? Issues of Tanzania, Mwalimu Kambarage Nyerere, and of course and the region to actually appreciate that if one day Ambassador Mulima is not here, there is another Tanzanian who still holds that, and they carry on with that to actually say, we don't know when it will happen, but whenever it happens, this is what we need to market.
Well, I think many, not only Tanzanian, but many East Africans have the same kind of philosophy of integration. The only challenge, I think, is sometimes, as it was in the past, it was the political environment at that time. And therefore, we had the experience of the collapse of the first East African community. But I think if we try to bring awareness from the school level, primary education, secondary education, high school, and the universities, will definitely have many, more than we have today. People who are aware of what is East African community, the benefits, and what are the benefits of the region, and what is the benefit to unite Africa as a continent. So Mwalimu, during the time when he was a president, they managed to put up a curricula in the schools, which I happened to attend. From primary school all the way you go to university, you find that there are studies which prepare you to understand what is happening in the world, in Africa and in the region in particular. So I think what we need to do now is just to give more education, awareness, and programs in the television and radio and the newspapers will bring in that sense of what is to be African and what is the benefits to have common trade, to increase volumes of trade, and economic relationship, and political and social.
Okay, very important. Coming back to you, Ndugu Hamisi, our time is running out and we have about 10 minutes to be out of studios. Just have about 3 or 4 minutes. In your closing remarks, as we celebrate 60 years of Tanzania's independence, and of course the relationship that the two countries, Uganda and Tanzania, have actually had. Now from that business angle, from the customs angle, Ndugu Hamisi, what could be your parting shots with us in as far as TPA is concerned, in celebrations over this, and of course the relationship with Uganda? Hamisi? Oh, okay. I think I lost him. He's gone. Ndugu Akol, let's just sum this up. We have a few minutes to get out of studios. Talk about Tanzania. Of course, I want the ambassador to say it last, and of course to encourage us to be part of the Ijue Tanzania. What is to be done and how we belong to that particular. But your final take on to today's conversation.
Well, I think today's conversation looking at the role, because ideally in the African setting, not so many countries have really been there for the liberation of Africa. You see, Tanzania hosted the frontline countries, states. Tanzania hosted most liberation movement in Southern Africa. So ideally you find that it is a role really they played, and a role that involved their people, that even we in Uganda, we should also accept and recognize. Tanzania did not only play a role towards the liberation of Africa against independence, but they also played a role in the second liberation of the countries. For example, here in Uganda in the 70s, they played a role in the liberation of Uganda. That is the second liberation after ensuring that they rid Uganda of the dictatorship of Idi Amin. The same thing was done in Congo, of course. You see, the same thing was done in Rwanda, and so the same thing was done against the fight against apartheid. Actually, yes, the fight against apartheid also still Tanzania played a key role. So those are roles really that they have actually played. Lastly, I think you're also asking about whether the Tanzanians have a particular attire. You see, like in Uganda, of course, we have the Kanzu and the Gomesi.
But that's for one tribe?
No. It's not. It's not. I think it's not for the Waganda, because when you're out there, it has been actually accepted that when you put on a Kanzu, they look at you as a Ugandan. Just like the Nigerian clothing. It's just particular communities, but eventually it has been accepted. So now when you look at Daktari Balozi, the way he's dressed.
Exactly.
Yeah,
this is too much of
that is the Nyerere wear. I mean, that is the difference between this and the Kaunda suit. Because that Kenneth Kaunda just cut the sleeve shorter.
Yes,
so that's the only difference.
This is true, exactly.
So every other time you see somebody.
Maybe it was a Mlungu wear.
So when you see somebody dressed like Comrade Balozi, you definitely know that he's a Tanzanian. Yeah, because that is an attire that is actually quite familiar with people in Tanzania. When you see somebody with a Kaunda suit, you know that is somebody from Zambia. So in Uganda, of course, when you see somebody putting on a Kanzu, putting on a Gomesi, if she's a lady, or the Mishanana, definitely you might say that this is actually
from Uganda.
Then lastly, to the ladies, I think they have the Kangas. Yeah, the Kangas speak a lot about the Swahili culture, yes, and also the Vitenje, because Vitenje actually it's now becoming an African dress for both ladies and men. So I think also that is playing a role in the social integration of the people.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Ambassador, we end the conversation with you. Let's talk about Ijue Tanzania finally as we get out of studios.
Yeah.
Of course, perhaps and the final things in here, you talk about quite a number of things here that you're exhibiting, food from Tanzania, culture, what, and many things. Let's conclude the conversation with the exhibition.
Thank you very much. The exhibition is taking place, as I say, from 9 to 15 hours.
3 p.m.
3 p.m. Yes, and the idea is to showcase product from Tanzania. We have some Tanzanian food from the coastline there. They are preparing, and you can be able to have a taste of that. But also there are different Tanzanian products which are there. Some Tanzanian wines, coffee, tea. Rice, spices from Zanzibar and other places in Tanzania, but also we have people from Tanzania Port Authority to showcase their products and the potential for the cooperation in terms of import and export trade for landlocked countries, but also the main potential to trade here in Uganda. And as you know, the Tanzania Port Authority has a role in the Pan-African setting because they serve up to South Sudan. Things which are coming through Port of Tanzania, Port of Dar es Salaam, and they service the eastern part of Congo, here in Uganda, and so many other countries. And I remember Mr. Cole mentioned about Tazara. Tazara is also known as Uhuru Railway. The role of that railway, which was built by Tanzanians and Zambians with the help from the Chinese, it was for liberation struggle in southern part of Africa. So that role helped to send, arms to countries, of course, and export copper from Zambia to the international market, but also to send liberators, freedom fighters, as far as to South Africa to fight apartheid, to Angola, not Angola, to Namibia, Southwest Africa at that time, and it helped to liberate Zimbabwe. So the role of that Tazara is not just a railway, but it has a Pan-African setting in it.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to conclude, apart from the pavilion and the exhibition we have at the mission, we also encourage people, not maybe this year, but any time in the future, just to take adventure to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, because it's quite fun.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you so much, Ambassador. Ambassador Mlima, thank you so much for having allowed to join us here today. Thank you, Ndugu Akola Mazima. Twitter James has not been with us, and of course, I'd also thank Ndugu Eric Kamisi, the Director General of the Tanzanian Sports Authority, that has also been here. It is on. The exhibition is on, as the Ambassador says, and it's just right here at the Embassy on Kagera Road. It's just here on Kagera Road, or Shimon Road. Free re-entry, please go there, look at what you can see, and of course the things in Tanzania. And 2, just wish the people of Tanzania the very best of these exhibitions, and of course climaxing it with the independence celebrations, Tanzania at 60. We want to wish them every good blessing that comes from the Lord God as they celebrate 60 years of their independence. And of course, it's greetings to everybody in Tanzania from the head of state, Her Excellency Mama Samia Hassan Suluhu, all to the commonest Tanzanians in there. We love you so much. And of course, we are together in this thing. For God and my country, my name is Jagenda Semakola Zeksoka, wishing you all the best. Good morning, blessings, and a very nice weekend. Bye-bye.